I mean, I think it's going to be much better this year because we got rid of. I mean, hello everyone, welcome back. FDG-TV returns. We got renewed. We got brought back for a second season. And
Yeah,
we got
so popular on Netflix. They had to renew us.
Netflix money, yo. So good, so excited. And there's a little bit of a change of scenery. You might have noticed we changed all the buttons. We changed the flashy bits on the sides. We even changed the co-host. Went that way. Sorry. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tommy Thompson. This is Allan Sullivan. And we are your hosts, I guess. Yes, that's the technical term for it. We are the hosts of FDG-TV Season 2. So...
Electric Boogaloo.
You know, I've been using that all the time, and now I just don't... Like, every time we had a lockdown in the UK, I just, Lockdown 2, Lockdown Boogaloo... But then I just kept using them all based on movie titles, and we're just running out of movie. Like, I think we're at Lockdown with a Vengeance. And if I remember right, the fourth Die Hard was called Live Free and Die Hard, where you come from, but in this country it was called Die Hard 4.0, so it's kind of useless in the content. Anyway, moving on.
Okay.
Mild
We'll come up with a
tangent.
better name for
We'll need to
season.
work on it.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we know we got some people in the chat because 2021 is already off to a mixed start. And we thought, how could we make it better or worse? I guess it's really up to you. I think maybe better. Maybe better. Our top production team says in the chat, higher budget, bigger stunts, influencer cameos. Stunts? Were you briefed on stunts?
No. I assume our stunt doubles will do them. It'll be fine.
Okay, right. I was really worried because it's quite late here in the UK. It's like 9 o'clock my time. Like I'm too tired at this point. I'd have to really limber up. No one wants to see me limber up live on camera.
I don't. Okay, so anyway, I hear that we're running FDG TV. We're going to talk about FDG.
Yes, so we're here for the Foundation of Digital Games conference, because Foundation of Digital Games 2021 is going to happen this year, lo and behold. But the weird thing, and some of you might be thinking, is, so hang on, the Foundation of Digital Games, this is an academic conference about research in the context of games, but it takes place in August. In fact, it's going to take place at the Université du Québec or Montréal, I believe. I think that's how you pronounce it with an actual, or as close as you can with a Scotsman trying to pronounce French. But it doesn't take place until August. So you might be thinking, what on earth is happening? Why on earth are we here at such an early stage? So we decided that it would be quite fun if we actually just turned up periodically throughout the year in line with the big moments that are happening around the conference. And also, we didn't just do this of our own back. We actually went away and had a wee chat with the SASDG, which is the Society for the Advancement of the Science of Digital Games. They're the head honchos that really look after FDG. And we asked them, hey, how about we come back and do more of this? These shenanigans. And engage with the community and hopefully check in with you all, make sure you're all okay, and keep you up to speed with the things that are happening in and around the organisation of the conference. And so we're here today because this show isn't just to mark the fact that Anne is now co-host of the show, which is an important thing. Hang on, I need to actually do the... oh, I didn't put the applause on. You can get the air horn. Oh, hang on, we have the honk. The honk is back. By popular demand, we brought the honk back.
Excellent.
So,
right.
This is actually because the paper submission deadline is on the 25th of January. And so This episode, we're going to be chatting a little bit. We have some wonderful guests from the organizational committee of the conference. We're going to talk a little bit about what it means to be actually submitting a paper to the conference. We have, and also just like talking over all the different tracks that happen at the conference. And we've managed to secure some really nice overviews on some of these, on each of the topics, so we can actually kind of talk a little bit about it, get you a little bit of an insight into the whole process. And I think that's everything for this show, because I think after that I run out of production notes.
Yeah, I believe that's it. And of course, the most important part is that this deadline's coming up and we want to help you be ready for it. So we're going to try to give you as much information as possible and give you a chance to see some of the people behind the scenes that are making this conference run.
And one of the key things, particularly for anyone, so if you're watching this and you haven't actually participated in a conference before, part of this is also to give you an insight into the overall, the kind of running calendar for it over the year. Like the idea is that you submit your publications, they go through a review process, they're then accepted, you can then actually go to the conference, present your work, etc. And so being able to show that and kind of give you an insight into how all this works, we thought this might actually be quite a fun thing for you. One of the things that we're actually not going to do, and I have this in giant red font on my production notes, thank you very much to Mike Cook from our top production team, is that we're not actually going to talk to our guests about the papers they're submitting. Now, if you're not familiar with conference paper submission procedures, one of the reasons for this is that it would actually break our review processes, because the idea is that you submit your paper anonymously. Well, the system knows who you are, but it goes into the review batch anonymously, and then subsequently the reviewers sign up to be involved, but then they review an anonymous paper. This is what we call double blind. So the person who is reviewing doesn't know who wrote the paper, and the person that gets the review back doesn't know who reviewed it. So if we actually start talking about the papers that are going to be submitted, this will actually jeopardize our review process. So that sounded very formal, but I wanted to get this done just to make sure that Mike knows that I do read his production notes.
He spends a lot of time on them.
He does. To be fair, like the only reason this show actually works is because we're both reading off the same Google Doc right now.
Yes. Without Mike Cook and Antonios, I don't think this would happen.
Yes,
so.
Actually, a special shout out to Antonios Liapis, who was also part of the FDG-TV last year. He is also furiously typing at me currently in our Discord, telling me to hurry up and get on with it. And so, as we're getting ready, we're going to take a moment now. We're going to actually have the general chairs from the Foundation of Digital Games Conference come in and have a little chat with us. And we're going to have a little, essentially, talk about the realities of putting on the conference. So without further ado, please give a warm welcome to our first two guests of this evening, Allan Fowler. Sorry, Allan, I managed to. It's late. And Joanna Perker. And I'll do the obligatory welcomes. And we're going to chat over to here. Oh no, it's actually, we're going to have to go to the big screen because there's so many guests at once. This is crazy. Allan, Joanna, welcome.
Hello.
Everyone's here. How are we all? Well, Happy New Year, first and foremost.
Yes. Thank you.
Likewise.
Allan, I'm a little worried. You look like you're very far away. Are you going to make it back in time for the conference?
Yeah, I've still got the hyperdrive working.
So are things better there?
Yeah, they are really good. This is actual suntan, not makeup.
I feel like I'm having to layer it on. I live in the UK, and I'm quite pale to begin with by virtue of being Scottish. So I'm having to use the warm light on my ring right now just to make sure I just don't look like a ghost. So yeah, FDG 2021. How's it going?
Yeah. It's going really good. So far, we've got several really good workshop proposals that are going through review. We're getting a few submissions in slowly for papers and counting down for the first deadline for papers. So things are looking good.
Excellent. And of course, don't forget, everyone, that the review, was it the deadline for the papers? That's on the 25th.
Yes.
25th of January. Excellent. There we go.
Very.
So one of the things that we, I guess, like for yourselves, how is the organization going in terms of, because, you know, we're in this situation, like last year, FDG 2020, we ran that virtually out of Malta. And then, you know, this year for yourselves, like how has that been for preparation where you're running on this assumption that you're maybe going to go hybrid, you're maybe going to be fully virtual? Like, has that been an easy process to kind of work through? Or is it, you're kind of juggling like two different variations of the conference at all times? Sorry, I just started with a hard question.
Right now, we're no, it's a great question actually. Right now, we're sort of standing back and hoping, fingers crossed, that things will improve over the next few months, that we could actually meet in real life. And so we've got a plan B in place in case that doesn't happen, which is possibly going to be the case. But right now, we're sort of just waiting, standing back, waiting, and seeing what's happening in terms of vaccinations and cases around the world. We're optimistic that things will improve.
Absolutely. I think we have to be at this point. I think certainly. I mean, I know it varies for each of us, I guess, because we're all in different pockets of the world. But and actually, yes, a good note to say to everyone out there. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're weathering this both physically and mentally, because I know this can be a very difficult period for everyone. We're running out of whiskey rapidly in my house. We were just talking about this before we went live. And as a Scotsman, that's danger. DEFCON levels are slowly rising in my house. One thing I was interested in asking, actually, Joanna, like, I was looking at the FDG site, and one of the things that's mentioned is the theme this year is on diversity and inclusion through games. And I wanted to really just ask for what your take on this is. Like, how do you hope that you see this theme being expressed in a lot of the submissions you're getting? What's your hope or aspiration that this gets reflected in the work that's coming in?
Yeah, I think what we hear quite often from mainstream, that there's a lot of toxicity in games, and I think games can be, however, be a wonderful place to show exactly the opposite. Games are a wonderful place to provide a safe space, to increase diversity, to invite people, and also to demonstrate and teach diversity. So I think games have so many possibilities, and I personally would love to see just more research out there tackling those positive effects and have really a positive impact on mainstream society, because again, so many mainstream media always focuses on the negative aspects, but what we just saw also during the lockdowns, video games had such an important social impact on so many of us. So many more people turned to video games to have those impacts, and I think this is our really good chance now to turn a little bit how people think about video games. And I think who else would be in a better position than us games researchers to show this, and that's why I'm super excited about this topic of the conference this year.
Yeah, it's been really cool seeing I've seen a couple of stats being thrown around in the last year, and typically a lot of this is kind of monetary in terms of what the overall sales or amount of hours being spent on games is increased. I think I saw a statistic this week or something. I'm not sure whether it was in the UK or elsewhere. It was like 1 in 5 people who are playing games on consoles bought their first console in the last year as a result of the current situation, because they wanted to get into it, which is pretty fantastic, because it's a like you say, that it's this mechanism that we can use as a form of escapism. I mean, out of curiosity, what's everyone been playing? What's been the game that's helped get you through the last few months? Or plural, even.
Yeah. So I mean, the last couple of weeks I played a lot of Cyberpunk, actually.
All right.
Well, let's not discuss this year. No, but it's a wonderful game, and it also tackles the topic inclusion and so many interesting aspects. So Cyberpunk made a lot of good messages, I guess, also bad ones, but let's not go there. But I really also enjoyed that there have been games like Animal Crossings during the times of the lockdown, which is usually not the kind of game I would personally play, but this was such a nice experience to meet friends and actually do something together. Because like having a Zoom call is lovely and it's good to see each other, but we're not spending time with each other, right? But if you go to the aquarium in Animal Crossing, you're sort of spending time with each other, and that's lovely.
I am terrified to go back to my Animal Crossing village. I haven't been since September, and I get a little bit obsessive compulsive about the weeds.
Oh.
And so I know if I go back, I'm just going to spend several hours just plucking all the weeds back up again. Alan, and what have you been playing?
Mostly play with my children, and so they've still playing Pokemon Go, and fortunately we can get out and about and actually play Pokemon Go. And my son plays a lot of Roblox, which I play with him frequently. On a personal level, what I played most recently would be Cyberpunk, Spider-Man, and yeah, just keeping busy doing mostly work rather than playing games because we can go outside. So that's where I am most of the time.
I really want to. I would love for someone to actually submit a paper at some point explaining to actually talk about the Roblox in much greater detail from a kind of educational and research perspective. Because Roblox is one of those games that if you're above a certain age, you have absolutely no idea what it is or why so many people are really into it. But you talk to younger audiences, and Roblox is absolutely huge. And it's funny because I talk to a lot of friends who are not in games or involved in games, and they have no idea what it is. They're like, they've never heard of it, and it's like one of the biggest games on the planet. It's insane.
Yeah, my nephew is completely into it and has started making like his own games in that system, and it's a really interesting gateway to get into game design for younger audiences.
Absolutely. You've also reminded me, Alan, I need to go back and finish my playthrough of Spider-Man. I was playing it at some point. I don't know if you're all the same as me. Like, you play a game for a certain period and then something major, usually work, interrupts. And then 4 months later, you're like, I was playing that, wasn't I? I wish they would, particularly for these open world games, they could do a recap system. It's like previously on... I remember talking about this with a developer who worked for, I think it was Ubisoft. I said it'd be one of the greatest things you could introduce in most of your games is just that moment of, it's been 4 months since you played this Assassin's Creed. Here's what happened in like your last 8 hours of playthrough. So you come back and like, oh right, okay, got it.
So I have a question for you both. FTG going online last year made it possible for a lot more people to come. And so FDG 2021, maybe being hybrid or online, we're hoping that there'll be some influx of new people. And what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about coming to FDG for the first time?
That's a good question, Anne. I think getting involved is really the best way. And people are a bit intimidated, and I remember my first time, and I was completely intimidated. So getting involved in the workshops is a good early step.
Oh, we're losing you for a bit there, Alan.
Sorry,
we lost you a little bit there.
Okay, sorry. I'm using my phone to connect, so my connection's not great.
No worries.
This year we've got a good range of workshops, and I think they're really welcoming communities. And I think that's a really good way to network, find friends, and form a community. And someone that's on this chat is exactly a good example of that. That came to their first FDG and has basically overtaken the people that have organised the first workshop. So
awesome.
You know who I'm talking about. I think just get involved. We may look, like in my example, pretty scary, but we're actually not. I think that would be my first recommendation is if you're feeling a bit intimidated, get involved in the workshops and find out, get connections, get networks, and you won't stop.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. Like for me also, it was for my first FDG, going to the workshops, going to the Doctor Consortium, looking at the posters, talking with the authors, talking to the people exhibiting, playing the games, being part of the community. Because I think, like for me personally, FDG is really all about the community. It's such a inviting and interesting network. And I think, it's definitely more challenging in these times, but I think this just requires a little bit more effort of every single one of us to overcome maybe all the personal hurdles and try to talk to more people. And there are many options, and it's I cannot underline how inviting this community is. And so just talk to the people and everyone will be happy to talk to you back.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really exciting last year as well with the conference, because we ran it. There was the Discord that was attached to it, and it was really nice to see like people getting together and actually playing games on the server, or even just talking about research or whatever their passions were. And people able to just come together and have a chat. And because we were using this nightly show as a mechanism by which to try and drive that, but it was already there, which I thought was great. And it was one of the reasons why we did this in the first place, because we know that FDG has a very friendly community that is actually quite welcoming to people from a number of different axes. And we thought, can we find a way to help stimulate that and maintain that, particularly because we can't be together in physical space. Fingers crossed we can soon. But,
and don't forget that there was the on Discord, people are getting into the chat, the voice chat, and doing live watch parties of FDG-TV. So
I didn't even realize that, I think, until the last one. But hey, anyway, it's not about us, but everyone else. That's the key part.
It's true.
What we'll do is we'll wrap up now, because we've still got one more guest to invite. But Allan, Joanna, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I wish you all the very best, and I hope that things continue to run smoothly in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you so much, and thanks for organizing this.
Take care.
Awesome.
See you soon.
Thank you, Anne.
Bye.
Okie dokie. Thank you very much once again to both Allan and Joanna for joining us here on season 2 of FDG-TV, which has been quite remarkable. One key thing we were mentioning there, I believe Allan was talking about the workshops. We will be doing a follow-up episode. So like we said, this is what the first of the new season of FDG-TV. We're here for, right now it's for the original paper submission deadline. But next up, we're going to be coming back to talk about the workshops, to talk about some of the other events that are going to be happening, because all the deadlines for these things are in the build-up to the conference are always staggered. So we've got different things we're going to be coming back to talk about over the next couple of months. And we're looking forward to bringing even more awesome guests to you. And so speaking of bringing in our next guest, we've got another member of the organizational team for FDG 2021. So please give a warm welcome to the one of the 2 program chairs for FDG 2021, Alessandro Canosa.
Thank you.
Hey Alessandro, how you doing?
Hi Tommy, hi Anne.
Yes, welcome. Thank you for coming. I recognize it's the end of a very long week for you, so thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I believe you're running because you're at the Royal Danish Academy. Is that right? So you're running an hour back. You're running an hour ahead of me.
Yeah. So it's 10:30 around here.
There you go. So yeah, first of all, thanks very much for joining us. So you're one of the 2 program chairs that we have at FDG this year, alongside Ali Aria, who is your colleague who's going to be working on this. I guess for the audience, what would be really great is, could you tell us a little bit, like, what is the role of the program chair in the context of this conference? Like, how does this work in, like, the kind of, give us like a kind of reviewing pipeline 101, I guess.
Okay, so the program chair actually, together with the general chairs, we agree on the tracks, on the different topics, on the domains, on the fields, and then we identify people that can carry on the weight for that specific domain. We figure out a description that is as precise and concise as possible for each one of the tracks. And then we help and enable the track chairs that we selected to recruit reviewers and overview the reviewing process, trying to support where needed. Usually we select track chairs with a certain level of seniority and experience because they have the network necessary to recruit reviewers. But if needed, we can help recruiting reviewers. between me, Ali, Joanna, and Allan, we have enough diversity of knowledge to be able to pinpoint the right people if needed be. Then when during the review process, we try to provide reviewing guidelines, but for most tracks, the track chairs know exactly what are the criteria for inclusion, for acceptance and rejection, things like that. There are some new novelties. I'm pretty sure Allan has spoken about the track reflections. So for something like that, we actually need to put together a little more thorough supporting guidelines for reviewing, because it's a new track, because it's a new topic, and it's a little bit different. And then that's pretty much it. Send notifications, deal with complaints, and that's generally the gist of it.
You get to deal with all of the emails that roll in with the questions.
Yes.
So for people who are going to be submitting on the 25th, which is in 10 days, just going to keep reminding people.
Get it in there.
What are the top things that people tend to forget when they submit their FDG papers? Do you have any advice or things to definitely remember for our audience?
So selecting the right track is not always trivial. Sometimes your work is in between, and so I guess it's a subjective call, and sometimes the track chair makes a call in terms of this paper does not belong here. In spite of what you think, I think keeping an open mind and trying with the alternative that the track chair recommends is probably the best way. Another issue that often comes up is poor anonymization strategies, where for a reason or the other, it's really easy to know who wrote a certain paper. And that kind of contradicts the whole, double-blind review system that we're trying to put together. And I think these are kind of the two major things. For the rest, it's all details, more or less.
Excellent. And I know for the reflections track, I'm just going to bust in and do Tommy's job here for a little bit. But
you do it. We are co-hosts. We are co-hosts. I just press the buttons. That's the only difference.
Yeah. Can I get some buttons to press over here? Make some sound effects. So for reflections, I know we're going to highlight that in a future show just because it is new and it is different. And we want people to understand what it is and be able to submit to it because it's very cool. I'm very excited about that addition to FDG.
It's Allan's brainchild, his idea, and it comes from the GLS conference where they do have the reflection, and it's basically a collection of research that did not really go according to plan, but still helps, at least by mapping the negative space, figuring out trajectory for future work. And we were discussing how probably some of the papers that don't make it in traditional chairs would actually be very good reflection papers. So I expect that maybe it may happen that some paper will be asked to change track like that.
I think that, certainly I remember us talking about it at the end of FDG last year, and I thought it sounded really interesting because we don't talk about failure enough. Particularly in the context of academic research, because it's always about successes and presenting those successes. So I think finding a way to actually pull it apart and talk about why we think those failures are still interesting and what benefit they can yield in the long run, I think is really, really valuable. So that's probably the track that I'm looking forward to with just kind of this really inane curiosity of what is going to be in here and what are we going to talk about? I don't know. I'm quite excited.
No, it is very different, and it's not going to be. I hope everything goes well, but the potential for screw ups is quite high because, the definition of a failure itself is not trivial, right? Mm-hmm. You can fail because you don't get the results expected, or you can fail because you pick the wrong method, and not all failures lead in the same way towards possible future successes. So we're all very hopeful. We think that less rigid space like this could really benefit the community, but there's a lot of incognita, and we hope that you and the attendance will be lenient. If anything is not perfect direction. It's a
I think
work.
it'll be a lot of fun. But just a reminder that for obviously but for everybody else watching, the Reflections track does have a later deadline.
Yes.
I believe it is April 12th. And so it is not one of the 6 tracks with the deadline in 10 days on January 25th. That's apparently my job, is to just say that over and over. So maybe I will remember.
You're doing a great job, I have to say.
Thank you.
I have to say. Speaking of, so we have 6 other tracks that we've got, and I thought what would be great, or what we thought would be great, I'm not taking credit for this at all, was that we would quickly go through each of the tracks and talk about what these are and like what was happening at all of them. But another thing that we did, because clearly we didn't have enough to do, was we actually reached out to all of the track chairs and asked them, would they be capable of maybe giving us a little summary? Now, some people did, and I'm really grateful to some who did, to the others who couldn't. We asked you in a very short notice, because as always with FDG-TV, we like to do things by the skin of our teeth, because top production, that's what we're all about. So what we'll do is we'll quickly go through some of the tracks, all the tracks actually, we're going to go through each of them, but we also have a couple of introductions from the track chairs themselves. So first of all, let's have a look at the Game Development Methods and Technologies track, which is chaired by Kimberly Vall and John Murray, and John is going to explain it for the audience.
Hello, I'm John Murray. I'm co-chair with Kimberly Vall of the Game Development Methods and Technologies track for this year's FDG. The track combines 2 related topics: how games are created and how to incorporate immersive technologies into games. This track welcomes technical papers that dive into specific methods and software details, along with critical or historical papers on either topic. We'd especially like to see papers that explore new modalities or offer insights into how these platforms and related mechanics are evolving. With the release of the Oculus Quest 2 and the excitement around research into AR and VR reaching new heights, we're very excited to see what the community does next. Here are a few papers from previous years that would have been a good fit for this track. If you are not sure if your paper is right for this track, please reach out to either of us. We are looking forward to your submission this year. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, John, once again for submitting that video. So yeah, this track's dedicated to submissions focused on different methods, tech, and tools used for the development of computer games. Not one that I've submitted to before, but certainly something that sounds really exciting. Have either of you ever submitted to one of these tracks before, just out of curiosity?
I don't remember. It's been a while.
It's been a while. You're like, oh god, it's been so long. But yes, thank you once again, John. I think that's actually quite exciting. Next up, we're going to go into the next track because we've got 6 of them to cover, and we've only got a certain amount of time. I know Alessandro is certainly deserving his downtime on a Friday night. We're going straight into Games Beyond Entertainment and Game Education, which is brought to us by Neil Rando and the narrator of this video, Jose Segal.
Hi, my name is Jose Segal, and I'm the track chair, co-track chair actually, for Games Beyond Entertainment and Game Education at FDG 2021. And I want to invite you to submit to our track. This is an exciting track with lots of cool stuff. Papers about serious games, transformational games, games with a purpose, advert games, exer games, gamification, gameful design, game-based learning, learning in games, non-entertainment uses of games, all kinds of things are welcome to this track. That's not it. Also, teaching of games, teaching game development, game curricula, program management, esports in school, Ludo literacy, all kinds of things related to games education, or the challenges of teaching about games, game development, game design, games cultures, and so on, to students at the high school, school, college, university level. You pick, you choose. You send your paper in. We're looking forward to it. Also, I hear we've got the best reviewers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. That's actually really difficult to now come back and talk about more, because I think he's just covered everything. There's just so much ground to cover there, and I think particularly for all of us, particularly those of us who actually still teach in some capacity, I think that's a really interesting track to get into about how do we engage with students, and how do we, or even just how do we then use games and different mechanisms to teach and train and educate others. So yeah, let's see. I'm having to look through. There's so many tracks. Anne's just looking at me now in terror. Like, is he all right? What's he doing? Is he breaking down? And
Do I need to cover?
do you want to do the next track? Because there's no video for this one.
Oh, thank you, I guess. Tommy's like, yeah, so the next track is game analytics and visualization. And so that is the chair, Mike. I'm going to destroy this name and I am so sorry. Rafit Sifa?
Perfect.
Excellent. Thank you. I didn't know I was going to be doing this, so I didn't get the pronunciation
right
ahead of time. Anyway, so yeah, this track includes work based on player behavioral data analysis that includes player modeling, churn analysis, and creating or understanding players' profiles, as well as aspects of business intelligence, such as performance evaluation and workflow optimization. So if you do work in any of those areas, I'm sure they would love to see your papers submitted.
Excellent. That's actually, that's a subject area that's a little close to your heart, isn't it, Alessandro?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I worked with Rafet before, and yeah, we're very confident that he's gonna do an excellent job there.
Fantastic. Do you want to introduce the next track, Anne? Because then this is a video as well, so you get the easy one this time, and then I'll do the next one.
Sure, that would be great. All right, so the next track is Game Artificial Intelligence, and that's with chairs Amy Hoover and Matthew Gusdile, and I believe Matthew is the one who is narrating this lovely video.
1.
Hi there, my name is Matthew Gusdile. I am one of 2 track co-chairs for the Game AI track at FDG 2021, and myself and my co-chair, Dr. Amy Hoover, would love to invite you to submit some of your work to our track. I'll leave it up to Amy now to give a brief rundown of what the track is all about.
This track focuses on the many applications of computational and artificial intelligence to the playing, design, development, improvement, and testing of video games. Topics include general game playing AI, procedural and player-driven content generation, mixed initiative authoring tools, computational narrative, believable agents, and AI-assisted game design. All submissions are guaranteed 3 reviews. Like FDG 2020, there will be no rebuttal period, but each submission will receive a meta review that is written by one of us.
Thanks, Amy, and thanks to all of you for listening. We very much hope you'll send your weird and wildest stuff to FDG 2021. Hi there, my name is Matt.
No, he's going to start again. Thank you very much to both Amy and Matthew for sending that in for us. I think they did a great job. I also, I don't know why, but I just really love the bit in that video where Amy says there will be no rebuttal period. It's like, it just seems... And I think for clarity, for anyone who's watching this, like, I would say that a lot of us on right now are part of or have at some point been part of Game AI. I know Anne's just going to be like, "What? No, shut up."
That one I have, yeah.
But yeah, I can definitely see Amy telling you like, there's no rebuttal. I wouldn't argue with her. She's the last lady I would argue with about that. So next track we have after this, we have 2 more tracks that we need to cover. That's Game Criticism and Analysis, which is chaired by Victoria MacArthur. This track calls for papers that approach the criticism and analysis of games from humanities-informed perspectives. So completely different end of the spectrum from Game AI. Submissions are encouraged from scholars engaging in narrative, visual and software studies, approaches to games and games criticism using methodologies such as archival research, hermeneutics, I believe that's how that's pronounced, and oral history. This track will also consider critical, theoretical and or historical analysis of games and game genres from perspectives such as, but not limited to, post-colonial theory, feminism, historicism, subaltern studies, queer theory, the environmental humanities, psychoanalysis and other related topics. This track also includes the emerging trends such as esports and streaming from a humanities-informed perspective. Such work includes studies of demographic trends in esports and streaming, feminist and gender studies perspectives, social cultural critiques and analysis of streaming and esports subcultures, the examination of societal and economic impact of esports.
Phew.
That was that was a lot.
There's a lot that goes in that track. Yeah, this is where the game theory papers tend to be submitted, and game critiques and whatnot. This is a track that I've been having a larger part in the last few years. So I've submitted to this one quite a bit.
Like, this is one that's completely outside my wheelhouse, but one that I would definitely turn up to. Sounds, because it's something that, again, it's very much outside of my expertise, but there's a lot of really interesting subject matter in there that I would actually like to have someone who's much smarter than me explain to me how all of this works.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a fan. All the talks end up being really fascinating. Looking at games that, from a different perspective than you might think about from, when you're steeped in the technical background, you tend to have a perspective on games that you may not normally think about this other side. And so it can be really inspirational. I've actually come up with a lot of technical ideas from that particular track.
Alessandra, is this one that you're familiar with? Have you had anything submitted there or attended anything like previously?
Not in this one in particular, but I really like the work of researchers that regularly submit there. For example, Doris Rouge. I don't know if you had the chance to look at her last paper.
No.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't want to advertise something that is not for this conference, but it's a very interesting look at the transformational power of games, not in terms of serious game or persuasive games, but in terms of like changing the sense of self and dealing with transformational identities. So I think it's just a fantastic type of work over there.
Very cool. We have one last track. Anne, do you want me to go, or would you like to?
No, I'll do this one.
Okay.
We obviously figured this out beforehand. So our last track is, and certainly not least, but game design and player experience. And that's being chaired by Allan Karstendottir. And so this track focuses on the exploration of different ways for designing and implementing interaction between the players and the game. So also understanding the experiences derived from those interactions. So all of those HCI focus papers. This track considers qualitative and quantitative experimental studies. And, some of the topics, and this is not a limit, this is not all of them, but game design, mechanics, persuasive games, novel use of controllers, user research, and player psychology. Those are the type of papers that are a good fit for that particular track.
And this seems like a really, certainly an area that's kind of growing in relevance, particularly over the last 10 years, like as more and more information we can kind of gather from player behavior and player engagement in games, and trying to understand what people are doing, how they're doing it, not just in terms of like how they're interacting in the game, but also how they actually interact with the game. Novel use of controllers is always one that's very interesting to me, both in terms of like weird, quirky controllers that you see at like games events and stuff like that, but even just like working with, you see a lot of work from charities and stuff, particularly working with people with physical disabilities, motor disabilities, and trying to find ways to engage in games that way. That's always something that I find really interesting. I have no idea. I wonder what's going to appear at the conference this year. Well, we don't know because we still have 10 days before it's due. I just segued into it. I didn't even mean to do that. I did a fantastic job.
So I actually have a question for Alessandra. Maybe it's a little more clear this time, but I still have questions about this. Sometimes when I am working on a paper, the two tracks I often get confused are, when does it belong in game AI and when does it belong in game development methods and technologies?
So development methods and technologies is a little more geared towards production pipelines, production methods, production technology. AI needs to innovate on the existing field of AI. So either algorithms or results, but in general, the focus is not on the production methods, is more on the advancements on the state of the art. So I guess you're right, there's a little bit of an overlap. but it's the focus of what the main contribution is that makes a difference.
Thank you. That's been like a years-long question, so thank you for answering that.
Well, I hope it addressed it.
I mean, I guess it's always an interesting problem, I think, in game AI space of like really interesting innovations in the state of the art, but then whether that is immediately applicable within the industry, being able to actually used in a production pipeline. And sometimes I guess that transference is easier than others. I guess there's a lot of tech barriers, there's knowledge barriers somewhere in amongst that. And trying to get, is that something that a developer can immediately look at and say, hey, okay, I see the relevance of that. We could definitely use that in the next, or at least advocate for it anyway in the next production that we're going to work on.
For example, the procedural content generation workshop is endemic to FDG and has been there for years. Started having an impact on the development and in the gaming industry. Maybe I want to say like, I'm not talking about indie titles, I'm talking about AAA. Not that long ago. So there's a delay of around 10 years from when it appears in AI circles to when it becomes a product.
Yeah. As someone who spends an awful lot of time talking about this stuff over on AI in games, I know exactly where you're coming from. Sometimes it can be a long period for it to get from one side of the room to the other.
And the other thing, I'm thinking like the procedural approach to content generation, the potential are enormous, but the way it's used most of the time is to shave development cost in terms of artists to generate details and grit in different level areas. And it's sometimes it feels like a missed opportunity, but that's the way it gets productized.
Yeah, so one last question for you, Alessandro, and thank you again for your time. But are there any particular tracks topics that you want to see more papers about?
More topics that I want to see papers about? Yeah, well, so it's not about topics, but it's about angles on topics. I'll give you an example. On visualization, I think is a fantastic domain, is a fantastic topic, but it's more or less all the work is aligned in a certain angle. There's a new, well, it's not new, but there's a different angle to look at visualization and to look at, data visualization. I'm thinking about the work by Giorgia Lupi, for example, about data humanism, how a completely different way to look at big data and human-generated data can incredible different applications and approaches if you just, change the point of view. So it's not more papers about different topics, but it's about different angles on the same topics.
Fantastic. So as a reminder to everyone, January 25th, deadline to get your papers in to these 6 tracks that we've just covered here. Alessandro, thank you once again for your time. We will release you from the confines of FDG-TV, but hopefully we'll get to see you again in the coming months in the build up to the conference, and then potentially at the conference itself as well.
Absolutely.
Have a good weekend. We'll speak to you soon.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Alrighty. Thank you once again to Alessandro. Oh my goodness, we've had so great. We've had guests come back. People have came back for more of this stuff. So we've had, we had Alan, we had Joanna, we've now had Alessandro come and join us. So we're getting close to the very end of this very first episode of our new season. I am awaiting my wonderful co-host Anne to come back and join me in a moment, so that we can continue on. I'm just deliberately waving to everyone to make sure that everything is working on the other end. My top production team is keeping an eye on me in the bottom right corner. Hello, Anne. How you doing?
Hello again.
Hello. Fancy bumping into you here.
I didn't know you'd be here.
That's a really bad. That sounded like a really bad chat up line. Do you come here often?
Oh yeah. Am I supposed to? Yeah. About once a month.
Hang on. No, that's the wrong way. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Because I forget this. I wasn't sure which camera I was supposed to look at. I have 2 cameras, but I haven't set them up for this one. Maybe next time we'll have Tommy on the 2 camera setup, which will be the most narcissistic production we've had yet. Oh dear. But yes, so there we go. Paper deadline. Do you want to remind them once again?
Sure. Paper deadline in 10 days from when this was live. So check your calendars. January 25th, that is when your papers are due to those 6 tracks that we just covered. And now, of course, I have all of this inspiration to go, and I just need to go write 3 more papers in the next 10 days.
Oh. It's not like I had nothing else to do. I always feel this every time it's approaching. I don't know if you're the same, but every time a conference deadline, I'm never good at maintaining it, at keeping an eye on them. This is why this episode exists, because a deadline comes up and you're just sitting there and you're like, oh yeah, whatever, and then like 10 days from it, you're like, oh,
right.
Do I do it? And the amount of papers, I apologies to those who have previously reviewed my papers. I'll say that now. The amount of my papers to FDG I literally wrote in the like 36 hours before the deadline, because I just was like, sod it, I'm going to do this. And then I write it. I actually ruined a holiday in France once, submitting a paper to the FDG, oh no, it was the PCG workshop with my wife. Oh, she wasn't my wife then, she is my wife now, so I managed to survive that one. But yeah, I actually wrote a paper on Mario level generation during our holiday. And she's like, what are you
She's
doing?
still married, yeah. So anyway,
I like it because Antonius still works on you. He's telling you to hurry up and wrap the show up, and I'm like, meh.
Yes, he's in the background like, come on. Yeah, so thank you again to SASDG. And tell me, what does that stand for? Do you like this? I'm going to put you on the spot.
It's for the Society for the Advancement of the Science of Digital Games.
Yes. Congratulations.
I didn't scroll up the document to double check.
I'm sure that's what it is.
Sounds
And
good.
also, we will be back. I know you had a great time this time, and we'll be back trying to act professional again in late February, in which we're going to start talking about the workshops and give you more information, so you can write more papers for the workshops.
Because you didn't have enough papers to write. And then we'll also be back, I believe, in March as well. And we're going to talk about the reflections track that's already been mentioned today. And I'm sure there'll be something else on the docket that I've subsequently forgotten about.
I believe that is also the deadline for works in progress and probably
late breaking work.
Doctoral consortium. This is why we should have the production staff is in the background, like fact checking. So anyway,
Mike's trying to help in the Discord and both just broke slightly.
Mike just broke the channel. Thank you.
But if you want to keep on if you want to keep ahead, know what's coming. First of all, make sure you subscribe to FDG Conf. Follow them on Twitter. You can also follow us on Twitter at FDG_TV. Don't forget the underscore.
Yes.
FDG_TV. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for show updates. I think that's really important. I mean, I've said this before because I have a YouTube channel. And do you want the honors?
No, please.
No. Okay.
I know you hate saying it, so go for it.
Please smash that like and subscribe button for more of FDG TV. I've done this so many times now. No, I just can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore.
That was very energetic.
Yes. Smash that like button. Smash that subscribe button. You don't subscribe, I'll come find you. And you really don't want that because there's all sorts of lockdown and travel restrictions, but I'll still find you. I'm good that way. Also, apparently there's a note here that says become a Patreon supporter so you can get Tommy close-up winks sent to your email every month. Now, I don't know what he's talking about. Like, yeah, I don't quite know, because we don't even have a Patreon set up for this yet.
Apparently it's on our to-do list.
All right, cool. Maybe next time.
All right. Well, we will see you all in February.
Indeed. If we survive the experience. And thank you so much for coming to join me. You've been a wonderful co-host. You keep me straight. You keep me honest.
Hardly.
Well, someone's got to try.
I think that's Antonius.
Yeah, but yeah, he's really past that. And as Mike says, we've now transitioned directly into Weird Fetish YouTube, at which point we should now wrap up. Stay safe, everyone. Take care. Don't forget to get those papers in. January 25th. We'll see y'all soon. Bye.
Yes. Bye.